Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Australia, Cabinet Ministers, Members of Parliament, State functionaries, colleagues in the civil society sector, the media, our traditional leaders, the executives and staff of our local councils, colleagues in the planning committee, good morning. My humble privilege to be part of this process and to be given this humble task of steering the opening session. And I pray that I'll be able to meet your expectations. This is the second in a series, as you will know, most of you were there. And as speakers will let you know, this is also a continuation of the government's continued demonstration of partnership between the critical other segment of the state, the civil society, for us to collectively meet, discuss, and forge the way forward for our country. And this is a novelty, because the government is making of its placing itself at the disposal of the citizens, not only to discuss, but even proudly to be able to highlight challenges as they see in the governance landscape. However, the objective should be for all of us to move together in a very constructive and coordinated manner to have solutions. So I hope that by the end of today, we'll have clear pathways to deepening and strengthening local government and decentralization, which is a commitment from His Excellency the President in his manifesto, which is to be further detailed out in medium-term national development plan. Having said that, I want to thank you for having me, and I want us to go straight to business. Because of the importance attached to our partners on the other segment, it is my privilege to call upon the civil society representative to make a statement.
Our chair for this program, Excellency Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, representative from the donor community as the European Union, ministers and officials of government, paramount chiefs, representative from MPAs, civil society leaders, representative from the various district councils. I greet you all on behalf of civil society organization. Today, we are gathered here in the northern district of Loko, a year after the first inaugural government civil society dialogue was held in Freetown. That dialogue, I must say, provided space for civil society to ask critical questions on issues such as the effectiveness of COVID response, accountability in the management of COVID funds, and other government-related issues. And we also witnessed a frank and open conversation where the Minister of Health, Deputy Minister of Finance, Director of NACOVAC, and the Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education all made presentations and responded to many of the questions, the issues and concerns raised by civil society. Well, this is not to say that the forum addressed all the concerns raised. Definitely, it has served as a baseline, and lessons learned have definitely informed this dialogue that we are having here today. It is our hope that this dialogue will continue to serve as a space for constructive, frank, and honest engagement, one that is rooted on trust. I want to thank the government for providing us this space, and to all our civil society leaders who have been working behind the scenes for this dialogue to materialize. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, Honorable Vice President, I want to reiterate the essence of this dialogue again, which is to foster constructive engagement between government of Sierra Leone and non-state actors and civil society organizations working on diverse governance and development issues. Government of Sierra Leone has provided this enabling space for civil society engagement like this, which is in line with national and international commitment to uphold the tenets of good governance in Sierra Leone. Mr. Chairperson, Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this year's dialogue is decentralization for effective service delivery with focus on water, education, and agriculture, which I consider critical for meeting the aspirations, the interests, and concerns of citizens, especially those living in rural areas where access to these services still remain a challenge. Let me use this space to recognize the numerous efforts made by government, especially on specific sectors we will be discussing here today, which are in tandem with government human capital development initiative. First, in the area of education, we have witnessed significant investment in the education sector and the free quality education program, plus relevant policy enhancements such as radical inclusion policies has enhanced increased access to education for millions of children, including girls and children living with disability. In the area of agriculture, we have seen increased government commitment in agriculture, with special focus on rice production, with the revivification of the regional rice value chain project in Tomabon and the Rombe swamp rice development initiative here in Loko and the Chiefdom Youth Farm, etc. We are also seeing a lot of effort being made in ensuring that communities and citizens have increased access to clean water. Mr. Chair, Honorable Vice President, as the focus of this conversation today is on decentralization for effective service delivery, please permit me to highlight just a few issues we must all take into consideration for decentralization to meaningfully translate into effective service delivery. First, the issue of the disbursement of funds from central government to councils for the world function and its potential to affect service delivery. I give you an example. Funds for agriculture, if transferred beyond the planting season, will not have the desired impact on youth, women, and children in terms of providing livelihoods in their community. Second point, the Interministerial Committee has provided for, in part 3, Section 109 of the Local Government Act, if meeting could be a platform to address a lot of the decentralization gaps and taking critical decisions, thereby minimizing the enormous service delivery challenges envisaged by the local authorities. We need to have a relook at the council's, local council structures and defining clear roles and responsibilities for strategic positioning that can enhance effectiveness in service delivery and limit chaos in council operations. Another critical point we must note here is, in council, where the political and administrative heads do not effectively collaborate, it further affects the effectiveness of service delivery. This needs to be given serious attention, as the citizens who miss out on much needed services are the ultimate losers. I also want to highlight that another point around the devolved functions are still heavily centralized. Imagine where you have a situation, Salwako operating in Cambia, for example, where approval for fuel to operate the water station in Cambia has to come from Salwako headquarters in Freetown. Imagine the significant delays. Sometimes it takes weeks or months without water being provided for the people. And these are areas we really need to look at to ensure effective service delivery. Access to agriculture and input, I also want to mention, and services for smallholder farmers, especially women, still remain a challenge. And even in situations where these services are provided, it is not done on time. The last point is there is seeming disparity in the distribution and allocation of trained and qualified teachers across schools in the country. There is issue around inadequate wash facilities in school, the delay in providing subvention to special needs schools, and we must recognize how this might impact or affect the government flagship program, that is the free quality school education. As I conclude my remarks, we would like Your Excellency, Honorable Vice President, and officials of government, and MDACR President to reflect on some other key burning issues. These issues, they might not be the focus of this conversation we are having here today, but they are very critical. Let these issues be a take-home. These issues need to be given serious attention by the government. Well, I recognize also that you may not have the answers now, but we believe a future dialogue of this nature will provide answers to some of these concerns. Let me just state a few. One, the issue around our national debt. Our national debt is increasing, and we need to start to rethink how debt servicing might have the potential to affect service delivery, especially at the local level. The depreciation of the Leone against the international currency like the US dollar and the pound, and the continued increase in the prices of basic commodities, especially rice. Even though there is no import duty on rice, but the price still keep increasing. So how can we explain this scenario to our people? The last issue is bordering around political violence and integrity of our electoral process. For instance, the recent incident in Benedugu might be regarded as insignificant, but it should not be ignored. It should be a cause for concern for all of us. So, Honorable Vice President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's our hope as civil society organization that this engagement will continue to receive the highest political will to take into action all that will be discussed here today for the good of our people. So as civil society leaders, this space has been provided for us. Let's seize this space. Let's run with it. Let's don't wait until next October before we come again and dialogue with government. Let's see how we can sustain this and support this process. I want to see the next dialogue or civil society now inviting government, various MDAs to have a conversation. Thank you very much for your attention, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much, and thank you all CH colleagues out here. An opportunity now to talk to you from the government, and I will humbly call upon the Minister of Political and Public Affairs, Ambassador Untitled, to talk to us.
Honorable Vice President, colleague ministers, our revered paramount chiefs and traditional rulers, representatives of government partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As the Minister of Political and Public Affairs charged with the responsibility to promote good governance in Sierra Leone through public and stakeholders' participation, it is indeed a great pleasure and honor to be making a short statement at the second dialogue engagement between the government of His Excellency the President of the Julius Bio and civil society organizations. As you may recall, Part 4 of the People's Manifesto of 2018 states, and I quote, "The new direction of government will make every citizen of Sierra Leone to feel and believe they are an integral part of an inseparable and indivisible country, and will promote inclusive politics, inclusive governance, and inclusive development as the only guarantor for enduring peace and security." Such engagements are meant to facilitate constructive engagement between the government of Sierra Leone and other actors in the governance architecture. The decentralization process was reintroduced in Sierra Leone with the enactment of the Local Government Act of 2004, which provided for the devolution of various functions, personnel, and finance to local councils, with the overall objective of enabling local councils play a crucial role in the delivery of services and in national development. This gathering here this morning will agree with me that there still exists what could be described as existing concentration of government business at the central level. Therefore, the theme for today's dialogue, decentralization for effective service delivery, will serve as a reminder for CSOs, development partners, and government to continue taking decisive steps towards the devolution process. For this, I must say thanks to the organizing team for this dialogue in the Office of the Vice President and the Ministry of Political and Public Affairs. In view of the ripple effect of decentralization on improved service delivery, it is necessary that we leave Loko with a concrete and progressive declaration which will challenge CSOs, development partners, and government to partner in the task of promoting decentralization for effective service delivery throughout the length and breadth of the country. The Loko CSO Government of Sierra Leone Dialogue of 29th of today should not just be reported as a one-off event, but should rather be viewed as the decisive beginning of a continued process of sustained discussions and government CSO engagements on the decentralization process using various channels of engagements and communication involving both the print and electronic media all over the country. Given the strategic relevance of such engagements to our nascent democracy, my ministry stands ready to facilitate this process with the Office of the Vice President. So we're looking forward to the sessions, as even the CSO representative said. We have challenges, and I believe we all should leave here noting that this challenge can only be met by us, and even challenge his colleagues that it is not just government who should always initiate this process, but the CSO they themselves have initiate this process with engagement with the planning bodies, that is the VP's office and my office. We're looking forward to really fruitful discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister of Political and Public Affairs. The Minister on whose shoulder starkly rests the responsibility of facilitation, supported by the Honorable Vice President as Chair of the International Committee. The Minister of Local Government and Rural Development is a must. Honorable Minister, my pleasure.
Thank you very much, Tumaima. Excellency, Honorable Vice President, Ministers of State, all the state functionaries, development partners, our revered traditional rulers, representatives of local and chieftaincy councils, civil society organizations, the media. Good morning to you all. It is indeed a pleasure to be here, and more so being the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, to my commitment and the commitment of the ministry in ensuring that we listen carefully to the dialogue and the outcomes of the dialogue for implementation. As a ministry, our mandate is focused on becoming a modern, result-focused, service-oriented organization dedicated to fostering a culture of public service, both within the ministry itself and the wider local government sector. The vision itself is one that is vibrant, strong, and democratic local government systems which respects the deep-rooted cultural institutions that represent communities across Sierra Leone. We aim to establish accountable and inclusive local governance structures, local communities able to determine their local service and development priorities in partnership with central government. We are committed to driving improvements in the quality of local service delivery and also broadening fair access to these services to every community in Sierra Leone. As stated by the moderator, it rests on my shoulder to give you a brief summary of what the ministry has been engaged in the past few months. The ministry has now refreshed the decentralization policy, which includes or takes cognizance of the challenges that have marred local governance over the past 19 years. The ministry is also about to table the new local government bill of 2021 in Parliament. We have completed chiefdom functionary reviews, ensuring that we identify the existing chiefdom functionaries and also stop the leakages that have existed. The ministry has completed capacity assessment for all local councils and also developed a capacity strategy. The ministry has engaged in a maiden induction of paramount chiefs, new paramount chiefs and paramount chiefs who have been involved in conflicts with their people in various chiefdoms. We have also engaged in extensive capacity building engagements with our development partners, both the EU and also the UNDP. The ministry is about completing a strategic plan for the ministry that will be fit for purpose and will address some of the issues that I believe will be raised here today. The ministry, tandem with government, has also improved the workforce welfare, and that I mean the remuneration of workers within the decentralized sector. Today's engagement is for a frank discussion between government and civil society organizations. And the ministry sits right at the center to harness the discussions that we're going to be having and to nourish the the activities of the ministry. Of course, the challenges are many, and I'm sure that's the purpose of the dialogue. The 2004 Act left major strategic issues only partially resolved. That partial settlement sowed confusion and dispute, undermining the sector's effectiveness. And I will highlight a few. Defining the distinct role or powers of both tiers of local government and that of central. Strengthening local accountability systems. Completing the decentralization of local service delivery. With service planning and delivery structures in both local councils and MDAs. Lack of single performance management regime for local service delivery. The lack of coherent framework to promote local development. These challenges we have been engaging various local councils and chiefdom councils to try and navigate and resolve these challenges. And we've come so far as a nation. But there still remains challenges. Of course, we know there isn't any need for me to highlight some of these challenges and what informs these challenges. However, in addition to some of these challenges, we also have the emerging demands of the new direction reforms agenda, which is obviously completing the devolution of local service delivery to local government, including decentralizing the control of both local budgets and staff and improving quality and access to local public services. His Excellency's Human Capital Development Agenda also increases the demand on local councils for coordinating the local implementation of presidential targets, food security, maternal health, and child literacy, numeracy by local councils, MDAs, and chieftains. Of course, there is need for regional growth as well. But clearly, what we have to embrace as a nation is that we moved and we made excellent strides, but we have to double up. And in doubling up, one of the things we need to address as a nation is mainly that of the centralized mindset. And when I say centralized mindset, it's completely different from the decentralized mindset. Because when we have a decentralized mindset as envisioned by the TRC report, in order to cascade and ensure that services are accessed by our local communities, then we'll have centralization as a thing of the past. It's mainly a human factor. Because the chairman of the Interministerial Council, who is the Honorable Vice President, has said time and again that all services or devolved functions have actually been devolved. But clearly, the ministries or the MDAs need to double their steps in actually relieving most of these functions. I have to say, 2 weeks ago, we had an engagement as a ministry here in Loko, wherein, as a prescription of the new policy, there was a need for a regional coordinating committee headed by the regional minister. We had an engagement for devolved sector heads. And one of the clear messages that we had from that engagement is that the sector heads are not engaging. And that of itself reduces the impact for service delivery. We want to appeal as a ministry to all other ministries to work in tandem with the Ministry of Local Government in ensuring that sector heads attend meetings and not their representatives. and they should be accountable to local councils first before their accountability to their ministries. Because if we talk about decentralization and local service delivery, the services to be delivered are for the localities, and therefore the political entities in those areas, which is the local councils, have a pivotal role in directing government programs within those localities. I am aware that time is of essence, and I would not want to take a lot of your time because this is a dialogue program. But we want to express our sincere commitment to this dialogue and to harness whatever comes out of it for the benefit of decentralization and effective service delivery. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. At this point, another key set of partners in the process of governance and state development, our development partners, and I believe leading one of them is here, so we'll have a statement from the European Union delegation. Serena, you
Honorable Vice President, Honorable Ministers, Members of Parliament, Paramount Chief, esteemed representatives from ministries and development agencies, esteemed local authority, civil society representative, colleagues from the diplomatic corps, member of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to join on behalf of the European Union on occasion of this second high-level dialogue with government and civil society. Let me start by extending the very best wishes for a successful dialogue by the Ambassador of the European Union, Mr. Manuel Müller. Mr. Müller would have loved to be with us today. But as you are aware, he is accompanying this week a very important European political mission to Sierra Leone to follow on the 2018 electoral observation mission recommendations. Today's event is one to be welcomed for many reasons. Firstly, it translates into action the commitment made by His Excellency the President Julius Maada Bio to enhance consultation of and collaboration with civil society organizations in addressing the critical governance and developmental issues which affect Sierra Leone. Secondly, it brings under the spotlight the critical importance of decentralization to ensure effective public service delivery to the people. It takes leadership to rethink and take affirmative action as this one to reinvigorate the state-society social contract. And it takes wisdom and long-term vision to strengthen devolution, to truly decentralize authority and resources, and make the district council a reliable point of reference for citizens. Honorable Vice President, we all know we can trust your leadership to excel in this respect. And as a European Union, we are pleased to have associated ourselves with the process of strengthening decentralization in Sierra Leone. Through our ongoing program, we've made available over 300 billion loans to support civil society organizations and local authorities partnering together for local development. EU-funded program nowadays support 11 local councils, and I recognize the representative here today. And we're honored to have been able to partner with vibrant civil society organizations, mostly national, in doing so. Our different actions seek to support these critical actors by strengthening their human, technical, and financial capacity, but also and foremost in fostering partnerships between local authorities and civil society in the planning, implementation, and monitoring of local development plans. We are very much aware that the needs of the District Council will not be addressed by our projects alone. Yet, we hope that they can be catalytic in building the capacity, unleashing the socio-economic potential of the district, and increase both the revenue base and the social accountability for effective service delivery. And we do so, ladies and gentlemen, because as the medium-term National Development Plan of Sierra Leone rightly recognizes, the cornerstone for ensuring inclusivity in the government system at all levels is empowering local governments and implementing a decentralized approach to efficient service delivery. As Sierra Leone, the European Union also does recognize that the very success of development lays with the people-centered solutions, social accountability, and a strong partnership between civil society and local authority. Your Excellency, Honorable Minister, and esteemed colleagues, we all agree. Local authorities play a central role in development, and decentralization is the bedrock of any democratic system. Now, it's true, there is no one democratic model that fits all. The model as such is not the point, the participation in decision-making is. The opportunity for the citizen to be part and governing of society, the opportunity to voice opinion and concerns through channels that do not undermine stability and the very foundation and principle of states. That is what matters. And this is where civil society can play an often underestimated role. Enhanced public participation through active involvement of civil society organizations in public policy planning, implementation, and oversight can significantly accrue the benefits and potential for development, as well as peace and social cohesion. You know better, when local people plan their affairs and have their power to determine how to develop their community, development not only happens, development is owned, is preserved, and is sustained. And local efforts toward development contribute to the welfare and social cohesion of the entire nation. Your Excellency, Honorable Ministers, citizen quest and expectation for effective and efficient service delivery and tangible development outcome are very high, with no space for politically motivated distortion, nor the pursuit of narrow personal interests. The call for a performing public service, a performing civil service, sound financial management, fiscal transparency, and public accountability at all levels is strong, all over the globe, in Europe as in Sierra Leone, now more than ever. I have no hesitation to say strengthening the role of local authorities and national civil society organizations, reinforcing social accountability, and sustain continuous trust-building dialogue as this one between state and non-state institutions at all levels will go a long way in building resilient societies, fostering economic and social development, and strengthening peace and social cohesion in Sierra Leone. It is against this background that we welcome this high-level dialogue with CSO on decentralization, and encourage all efforts aimed at strengthening authority, financial and human resources to local authorities, and heightening standards of transparency and social accountability. Honorable Minister Tamalamina, I wish to laud the government of Sierra Leone for the unwavering commitment to strengthening decentralization in furtherance of its development strategy, and I wish to recognize your personal and entire efforts in pushing the evolution. We also recognize your contribution in opening up space to civil society in shaping the decentralization framework of Sierra Leone. As European Union, you have followed how your government decentralization policies have shaped. Representatives from civil society were given an opportunity to comment on the draft policy and to engage on the same. This opportunity was embraced with the right attitude and has provided inputs that allow for a stronger policy and a wider consensus. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a clear example how engagement with civil society can be and should be a force for good. I hope this spirit of dialogue will permeate the next and final stages of the definition of legal framework for decentralization. And in the same way, I wish to conclude by paraphrasing what His Excellency the President said last year when he signed the repeal of criminal libel provision in the Public Order Act. He said, "We can be united to do the right thing." Honorable Ministers, esteemed representatives of local authorities and civil society, we dare add, to do the right thing, you have to be united. The opportunities are there to seize. Sierra Leone is blessed with a government with a vision, with local authorities which are keen to deliver effective service to the citizen, and a vibrant civil society that stands ready to contribute. And in doing so, you can be assured of the European Union unfettered support. I wish you all a beautiful time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the high point here. Very shortly, I'll call upon the second gentleman of the Republic, who is not only a politician, but I always tell people that he's an academic, he's a scholar, he's a policy practice practitioner, and we are blessed to have somebody who is not practicing governance, but he knows and has studied governance. Honourable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my humble privilege to call upon the Honourable Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Jubo.
Mr. Chairman, Honourable Ministers, development partners, our colleagues, CSOs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank senior government officials and civil society leadership that have been involved in keeping this initiative alive, because I don't want to go over what has already been said about the importance of this dialogue. But what I want to emphasize is that this dialogue is a generational feat, in the sense that we are breaking new grounds in governance. We are breaking new grounds in governance because our generation believes that we have to make some solid commitment to strengthen democratic practices and promote good governance. This is a generational commitment, and it is a landmark commitment, because what we are doing now, we never saw it before, and what we are going to continue to do is to build a democratic society that is capable of delivering development with people. And we believe that this dialogue series is vital to that commitment and to that practice. Today, I am very happy that the theme for the dialogue is decentralization for effective service delivery. This is important because when you look at the investment that this government is making, particularly in light of His Excellency's human capital development vision, I think we needed civil society to play a key role in the service delivery discourse. And I hope at the end of the day, the narrative around effective service delivery through decentralization will inform how we are going to improve service delivery. This is a government that have invested and continue to invest in critical areas. One is education. Today, Sierra Leone stands as one of the top 5 countries across the continent that is investing heavily in education. We are taking 22% of the budget, put it into education. Today, we are providing free quality education for 2.6 million kids across the country. We pay fees subsidies, we buy books. In some areas, we provide transportation. In some vulnerable communities, we provide feed. This is critical, and government will want to understand some of the vital things that are going to affect delivery of free quality education. We have recruited additional teachers. We know we need to do more. We are expanding and building additional classrooms. We still need to do more. But make no mistake, what we have done in the last 3 years is phenomenal. That is why Sierra Leone stands today as one of the top spenders on education in the African continent. When you take the health sector, for example, when we came in, the budget was 6%. We increased it to 8%, and progressively today we are at 11.4%. Although we are still 3.5% short of the Abuja Declaration, but we recruited over 4,000 healthcare workers. We are spending money in renovating and expanding health services, including ambulance facilities. We know we still have to do more, but we have done extremely well also in that area. When you take water, for example, I know there's a lot of challenge. The minister will tell you during the dialogue process that we are putting additional resources to expand water distribution network. We are already signed contract, and there are works going on in major districts in this country that have never seen pipe-borne water. We are getting there. Agriculture is also one critical area because we believe that there are certain sectors like energy, agriculture, tourism, marine resources. These are sectors that we want to transform to productive sectors. We don't want to have a Ministry of Agriculture that is going to depend entirely on government continuous subsidy to a sector that can transform and become an engine of economic development. So we want that sector to move as a social infrastructure and economic infrastructure. So the investment we are making today in the Ministry of Agriculture is no doubt to make agriculture one of the engines of economic growth. That is why we elaborated the National Agricultural Transformation Program 2020 to 2023, where we decided that we are going to expand private sector investment in agriculture. We bring private sector. While we will continue to support small-scale holding farming, we want to attract additional investment in that sector. Because you all know, when we came in around 2018, Sierra Leone was spending about $520 million to import food, of which $240 million alone is on rice. And we look at the climate, we look at the environment, and we realize that this is a sector that we can turn around. Not only to decrease our dependency of food importation that is causing extreme stress on the dollar, but equally to just get that sector to become the bedrock for small-scale industrialization. Although today Sierra Leone prides itself as one of the producers of raw cooking oil, we are exporting oil today to Senegal. Just 2 weeks ago, the CSO of one of the leading companies was in Guinea. I encouraged him to go to Guinea and start discussions to export cooking oil to Guinea. Because we believe the only way we can strengthen our economy, particularly in this very challenging period in global economic times, is by enhancing intertrade among ourselves. What we can produce here, we are able to sell together. So the agricultural sector is key. But one other aspect that is key is increasing food production. Today, COVID has shown critically, that any country, any nation that does not invest in food production, you risk being at the mercy of international prices. The disruption in international food distribution and transportation has led to a phenomenal increase in the prices of essential commodities. It is not only in Sierra Leone, it's across the world. In Sierra Leone, progressively we are losing taxes. In the last financial budget, we even removed GST from wheat flour. There is no taxes on rice. But like my colleague from Action Aid said, the prices keep going up, which means we need to understand what are driving these prices, and it is international trade and transportation and distribution. Because these prices, they come to Sierra Leone. 1 minute. He said the Excellency wants to talk to me on the phone. Let me just respond. Sorry for that discussion. So essentially, that investment we are doing. Also, we just believe that the agricultural sector is the best way to go. We have purchased over 400 machines, including tractors. We are trying to get tractors, agricultural input outside of the realms of politics, so that we move from the generation of politicians that will have a tractor parked in front of his house and does not do anything. So a tractor that is in the field. If you go to my house in Lunge, from here I'm going to Lunge, there's no tractor there. But I don't even know how to use it, so I rent it from the block. So these are some of the critical changes we are making. We still know we need to do more. Because I usually say, I tell my colleagues, politicians, there is nothing bad when society have expectations of government. And so, that is a legitimate right of every society to have expectations. It is the responsibility of government to build the capacity to respond to that expectation. Recently, just now, our brother from Australia spoke about the problematic dynamics around the disbursement of funds from central government to the council. Why I decided to pick on this is that this year, just recently I read in the Loko newspaper that the Makeni City Council mobilized, were able to increase the revenue by 3 billion euros. Which means the Makeni City Council, that is supposed to be predominantly APC Council, is doing very well under an SLP government. So it means even when they were under APC, they were not doing that well. So it shows that councils have the capacity to generate revenue. Why I am making reference to this is that government transfers alone are not enough to get council to do what they want to do. We have to be innovative and creative about building strategies to generate revenue. So if the Makeni City Council pride itself to generate 3 billion Leone, and when you look at the population dynamics, I think both council and Kenema should promote to generate more. So this is where civil society need to help us to unravel some of these intricacies. We don't know everything. That no any council that just depend entirely on government transfer to do all what you want to do will be very difficult. And sometimes I ask myself, every time councils come and ask in the ministerial committee that devolve. So I believe one of the incentives for devolution is in effective revenue generation. Because if we devolve the power to you, you get the money to do it. You see the incentive. So next time when central government calls a council, I want to devolve it. When they know there is no money, they say, no, wait first. That we don't want that devolution. But when you tie devolution to the capacity for homegrown revenue within councils, and they are not only in terms of the human resource, but also the. So this is where I think at the end of the day, Mr. Chairman, we need to build partnership with civil society to help us unravel some of these intricacies. How can these councils perform like the Makeni City Council? But Loko is more populated than Mumbalis. Kenema, of course, no, of course. Not to talk about Freetown. So we have to move beyond this music and cheer discourse that give us money, central government don't give us, so we can't do this, central government don't give us, so we can't do this. And this is where civil society can build a partnership with government to try to. Government does not have that capacity. We don't have capacity to go around and do stories to understand the intricacy around how councils can be able to have the capacity to generate. This is a partnership we want to see coming out of this kind of dialogue, that civil society can do this. And government is ready to commit resources, because the kind of resources we want to commit to understand the intricacies around the challenges for revenue generation. That investment is worth it, because when you look at the large amount of money we are going to send. So that is one key area. Also, another key area is the free quality education. Today, I am very much happy that our colleague from the CEO made mention of fee subsidies, of teacher recruitment. But the fundamental thing is, how can civil society help us generate dialogue around the role of the community in the free quality education? What does the community think? Because what is happening now in certain communities, because people believe there is school subsidy. So even you have communities that want to build additional schools just because they want to get money. So you go in communities, you see people just building schools because they know government is going to pay for their teachers and the government is going to give them money for the kids. So community responsibility, parent responsibility. A lot of Sierra Leonean parents are making huge contribution to the free quality education. We want to know what is the quantum of that responsibility, and how can we build that kind of partnership between community and the state, so that to ensure that free quality education succeed, their contribution and what they can do. These are some of the areas that civil society can help us unravel, so that they can inform policy making moving forward with the free quality education. The other thing, critical thing today, like the health sector, we have increased revenue from 6, 8, then to 11.4. But today, I am
both on the side of government and on the side of the state actors. That is why we have structures that ensure that all sides of the spectrum have a say or stake. That this forum will be an opportunity for us to interact, creating a platform for us to be able to discuss and clear areas of more clarification on the issue. So on that note, I would want to call on the Honorable Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, Dr. Ina Senge, to make a presentation, after which we'll have an opportunity to have discussions. Dr. Senge.
Maybe I'll look at it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, colleagues, ministers, distinguished guests in society. How many minutes do I have?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. I'll speak about 4 areas, perhaps, with regards to the work that we've been doing with education sector service delivery. I'll speak about teachers, I'll speak about systems, policies, and some of the learning outcomes that we've been engaged in. It is important to start with teachers, because there's no educational system that would exist without quality teachers. And maybe I'll speak about a couple of things with teachers. We've done recruitment of teachers between 2018 to 2021 that amounted to about 10,000 teachers. That's recruitment and replacement. New teachers recruited has been up to 6,000. Now it's important to mention these numbers, where we've added 10,000 teachers to the payroll, because there are 35,000 teachers on the payroll. The government workforce is 80,000, and teachers make up upwards of 40% of the entire workforce. And teachers are also responsible for 40.3% of the wage bill. And within this scope, we added 10% of incentives to teachers, benefits to increase their salary by 30% over the last couple of years, as we have expanded the numbers. So expanding teacher numbers on the payroll and adding any incentives to them has significant cost to the government. And that is not little that we're able to add 30% increase to the teachers. One of the things that we also did was what we called upgrading teachers, reassessment. Teachers were not reassessed for well over 11 years in this country. And we completed reassessment for 4,000 teachers and came up with a reassessment policy. Over 300 principals were acting when we came over the last year, before I was in the ministry, and about 200 vice principals were also acting. And our ministry has conducted interviews and made substantive principals and vice principals for about 500 people. And this is really significant because without proper management of schools, you cannot really have good outcomes. In terms of training, we trained well over 32,000 teachers between 2018 and 2020. And this includes teacher management, code of conduct training, competency training, and as we speak, there's ongoing training and consultation that's happening in Makeni, Kailan, all over the country. We're actively.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's just come to my attention that people are recording instead of paying attention. We really will have the official photos from the media to be served eventually. Thank you. I hope there are no other objectives. Sorry,
no worries. You see, I really wish that this message goes to the people as well, as far away as possible, because it's significant. But in a crisp way. Yes, thank you. In terms of guidelines, with the teaching guidelines, we passed about 6 policies in cabinet over the last year that talks about teacher training, teacher code of conduct, teacher management, how we reassess people in a really systematic way. And what you have found actually is a strong, robust relationship between SLTU, CPSS, NACOT, and the Ministry of Education and TSC. So there are challenges obviously within the teaching, and if you look at the data, I hope everybody has read the education sector analysis and the joint sector review. You will see that we have about a quarter of our teachers that don't have the right certification. These challenges are important because if a teacher brings a fake certificate that when we go to verify, we can't prove your certificate, it's difficult for us because we're on payroll. And I mentioned that we had 35,000 teachers on payroll, but there are 80,000 teachers overall. So there are about another 25 to 30,000 teachers who are community and volunteer teachers. And often we go to the districts and the villages and people say, please, Mr. Minister, add a teacher there on the payroll. It is pretty much impossible, doubling the number of teachers if we added everybody who was a volunteer teacher. I'll move on to systems. One of the things that we've done, and with the FQSC and with education being our flagship program, you cannot transform this country without education. You cannot transform education without building systems. So some of the systems we built focused on the examination. There was examination malpractice everywhere. Even now, it's a problem that we deal with, but we've been able to reduce it. Between 2018, with the Presidential National Task Force on examination malpractice, with the communique that many of you signed across all sectors, and the increased monitoring that again they participate in, we see much more reduced examination malpractice. So the result performances went down between 2017, 2016, and 2018, 2019. But one of the good things that we begin to see, and we publish that, is that the trends are going up again. So this is the true reflection of our ability as a people. That said, it's been very difficult to get continuous assessment scores, but it's the first time ever since 1996 that the better results came out before schools reopened. That is because of good systems. It's also the first time that our children can know their results for free from wherever they are, whether they are volunteer or for you to get the results where you are free with a simple feature form. We have strengthened relationships with WAEC. The other systems that we built is Board of Governors. The government owns the schools, but it's managed by the community, by boards of governors. Many of you are on boards as well. Many people not the politicians anymore, because government said we would depoliticize education and the boards. So we did. We removed all the politicians from the boards and made civil society leaders on those boards, which I think is a really important transformational system thing that we did as well. We've trained every SMC, every school management committee in this country for primary schools have had 2 people trained with what we call the performance-based financing model, where we are introducing $20 million to use the community to manage our schools for us. And I do want to commend that one of the CSO organizations is using that manual to further train hundreds of people. And this is a really good collaboration between government and civil society, where instruments that we build are expanded and scaled. And decentralization is obviously important for us when we think about education, because basic education is the devolved function. We work with local government and local councils in doing this. So in terms of systems, we can talk about a lot of things, but it's an area we focus on. Policies. Again, you can't transform education without sound policies. Some of the most contentious policies we have passed. And I think in collaboration with all of you, and I know that there are some CSOs who now are actively pushing those policies. You know, I go to everywhere, you go places and you meet teachers with the cane, and you say, teacher, what's that cane? It was like a pointer. But it is important that we as civil society understand that when we speak about violence, we speak about other things in society, it starts from our children and what we do with our children in class. You cannot be beating a child and asking another child to beat another child to come in late to school because that child was working, and you expect that child will grow up to be a citizen who's not going to beat their wife at home. It's not possible. These things are all connected. And so one of the things we're trying to do is change the future of this country by ensuring that we are radical. So we have what we call radical inclusion, which focuses on 4 groups: poor, pregnant girls, and parent learners. We're focused on those who are in hard-to-reach areas. Just last week, I was with the president who went all over Kenema, places where we got stuck. That's what it means by having inclusive development, where you don't just stop on the highway, you get actual stop, they have to push the car, and you want to get the people there. And we do this very actively in radical inclusion. With regards to education policies, we're working on the Education Act. It's too old, it's out of date. We have the joint sector review that was done, again, all across the country. We have the education sector analysis, and we're currently developing the education sector plan. I hope everybody's included in that. I know that we have included CSOs and all stakeholders. I'll round up. In terms of buildings and infrastructure. Now, one of the things about the FQSC policy is we added 34%, with the schools expanded by about 34%. To put that in perspective, 10% of the entire population went to school in 2018 when President Bill said free public school education. And you know, people like to say, oh, the schools are overcrowded, oh, what are you doing? It is true. But I and President Bill and this government believe that it's better to have 80 people in the class that are learning than to have 40 of them sitting under the bridge and scolding each other and growing up to be non-responsive citizens. That said, we understand those challenges in the classroom. That's why we're building. We've built hundreds of classrooms. We just launched 100 GSS schools in Jerion. We've built about 3,000 classrooms within the just last year that I launched, and within the 3 projects, we're going to build 510 classrooms. We built several full schools. We just launched a full school in Kenema, a STEM girls' school. 1 year prior to that, we launched one in Loko, and we're going to build these schools of excellence everywhere and expanding on boarding homes. So we understand the challenges with full classrooms, but I think we as a people can all agree that it is unjust for 80% of our rural women to be illiterate. And that cannot be the case for the next 10 years or the next 20 years. We will do everything we can to make sure that our women in the rural areas go to class, even if they are 80 in class. Which brings the final point that I wanted to make around quality. People often say, hey, this is like free education, quality, no, they don't know, quality, no, they. I think people think that quality is you wake up and you say you declare quality. Even in America, they are fighting for quality in particular areas, because quality is about progress and the trend. Now, I often say to people, let's look at the data. Give me a learning outcome of choice. Enrollment, attendance, quality teachers, pass rates. Every indicator of choice since 2018 has been going up. That is what we care about, the trend and the progress. And then if we look at the most important learning outcomes, is the pass rates and exams. There have been many more people taking the exams than ever before. And there are many more upgrades in pass rates. The number of people who are taking the exams who are passing and transitioning has expanded. And finally, because I know people who quote that, they say, oh, Mr. Minister, pass rates for WASP are 4.5. I used to get angry when people told me that, but then I stopped getting angry and tried to focus on explaining it. The pass rate for WASP is not 4.5%. The 4.5% were people who got 5 credits from their one sitting. Even the university that we go into for degrees says you need 5 credits in 2 sittings. Besides, there are many programs at the university that does not require 5 credits, including math and English. So in a way, it's how we represent data and how we misrepresent data and how we use data to drive the message that we want to drive. I do want to assure everybody that we have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. But the one thing I can assure you is that over the last 3 years, well, the positive trend in every indicator of choice that you care about with regards to quality. And that's why you can't talk about any indicator across the world or any government across the world today without mentioning Sierra Leone or His Excellency's Free School Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. In a nutshell, you talked about those 4 areas, but particularly so I want to just reiterate. Talked about upgrading teachers, which is very much an incentive, getting them assessed, getting active people into permanent positions, which of course gives them the skill to be better teachers, the training component, not just training in subject matter, but also looking at ethical standards that is, very necessary for teachers as they're grooming our young ones. Those guidelines that tell them how to deliver those services to our children. The coordination element is very strong, where all the key stakeholders coordinate to have synergy in what is being taught in our schools or what is being done in our educational system. Because the systemic issues, putting systems in place for effective delivery, and those institutional arrangements that are bringing in the community, civil society actors, the community who have a stake in school management and not the elites or the politicians. So that's also, I think, a very good initiative. The radical inclusion path is very good, because we know that the ones who are women who are girls. We know what it's like for a girl to be excluded from school because of pregnancy. So that's another initiative. Buildings, the social infrastructure, the buildings to give more access, space for our people to be able to go to school more, increase access. And then quality, which comes it all. The trends are very clear, the outcomes are very clear, the statistics are there, data does not lie. So it's good that we use the data very effectively. Thank you, Mr. Minister. At the time of questioning, we will have more insight from the Minister based on your questions to me. At this point, let me turn to the agriculture sector. We know that agriculture is also a lifeline. You're hungry, you cannot go to school, you cannot do anything or access anything. Agriculture tied to food security, which is also central to this government's manifesto, the platform on which this government came into being, increasing food security. So that's also a very important sector. We know that decentralizing agriculture means a lot. A lot of the work happens in rural areas where we have the land, where we have the structures. But if we have to ensure that we have effective service delivery, we have to make sure that it goes right down to the poor woman in the village. So I think we are very honored this afternoon to have no less a person than the Honorable Minister of Agriculture to tell us something about agriculture and decentralization. Dr. Karim.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Cabinet Ministers present here, honorable members of Parliament, chairpersons of councils, mayor, councillors of district council, members of the diplomatic and consular corps, our revered paramount chiefs, and other local authorities. Okay. Sorry about that. Other local authorities, our distinguished development partners, civil society representatives, guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start by joining other speakers to welcome state and non-state actors, civil society organizations working to promote good governance and development issues in Sierra Leone. Mr. Chairman, on the second observance of the government and civil society dialogue series, the theme for the 29th October 2002, that's today, Decentralization for Effective Service Delivery. Let me hasten to say that the theme is emblematic of government's commitment to human capital development, food security, and environmental proactivity as expressed in the Medium-Term Development Plan and the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry National Transformation Program 2023. Furthermore, I wish to inform the House that the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry is completely decentralized in terms of default function and service delivery in all 14 agricultural district offices. Our frontline extension workers are about 10-mile radius to our clients, that is the smallholder farmers, in most districts except otherwise. The agriculture sector in Sierra Leone is largely characterized by smallholder subsistence farmers, producing rice, but also cassava, potatoes, cacao, coffee, oil palm, cashew, vegetable, granules, poultry, cattle, etc., etc. However, it is worthy to note that agriculture is the largest contributor to GDP, accounting for about half of the economy and employs about 65% of Sierra Leoneans in government, projects, and the private sector. In terms of core functions and service delivery, the ministry is implementing the government's agenda for economic diversification in line with the Decentralization Act. The overall goal of our agricultural policy is to create the enabling environment for sustainable and diversified production of food on a scale enough to feed the growing population, as well as providing gainful employment by the private sector. In terms of progress in service delivery during the period under review, that is 2020 and 2021 production season of the devolved function, the ministry service delivery is based on the Decentralization Act as well as the National Agricultural Transformation Plan, officially launched by the Honorable Vice President this year at the World Food Day celebration in Leone. Some of the key progress made so far are as follows. 1. All field activities and relevant personnel are devolved to the local councils. The agriculture district plan are developed and implemented in collaboration with the local council. The ministry's headquarters responsibility is limited to technical supervision. 2. All project implementation units, that's the PIUs, under the supervision of the ministry, are now completely decentralized in their operational district headquarters. This arrangement is providing accessibility for the project packages by the beneficiaries and also facilitating service delivery. For example, of such projects are the agricultural value chain development project, that's the AVP based in Bo. The regional rice value chain project based in Bon and Cambia. Sierra Leone agribusiness and rice value chain support projects based in Moyamba, and the smallholder commercialization development project, that's CADEP, based in Freetown, linking farmers to markets based in Makeni, and rural finance based in Bo. The Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Sierra Leone, for the first time, has made a bold shift in policy in 2001 to revitalize private sector engagement in the agriculture sector from national to district level. The thrust of the policy change has provided $10 million agricultural credit facilities at a single-digit interest rate of 5%, which is the first in the history of this country, for the private sector to service farmers with production inputs at all levels nationwide. 4. The ministry also has established 400 sets of agricultural machine ring model currently operated by the private sector in all districts based on district comparative advantages. This policy shift is a trigger to trigger the attainment of rice self-sufficiency by the private sector, supported by the ministry. The ministry has also supported smallholder farmers to cultivate 12,000 hectares of rice with land prepared and improved seed supply. It has also supported all chiefdom youth farms with land preparation, that is plow, harrow, and seed harrow of 8,000 hectares, and improved seeds to cultivate 100 acres of rice in each chiefdom throughout the input voucher model. The ministry has also piloted phase 1 of 25-hectare rapid raw onion production project, which is a presidential initiative in Loko, Moyamba, Falaba, and Karine district through the service provider model, that's the private sector. The objective of this project is to target women group to increase onion production on sustainable basis. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, challenges of service delivery include, but not limited to, the following: late disbursement of Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry budget allocation, given that the service delivery is largely seasonal. The number of agricultural assorted machines in the district rings are not enough to produce the desired result. One critical machine is the combined harvester, as we have projected good harvest of rice because of the machine ring operation. Unfortunately, very few agro dealers have access to a credit facility to buy production inputs, including agricultural machines and fertilizer. The fundamental problem is the weight capacity of our private sector. Production of rice in one production season only is the major bottleneck to meet our national rice requirement. Lack of established ranch system for livestock production at district level, extension service delivery, and technical backstopping to farmers nationwide is weak due to inadequate staff. Private sector involvement in agriculture on a large scale to complement government efforts is a major challenge. And then lack of enough logistics in terms of mobility, particularly at district level, to improve on devolved staff timely service delivery is critical. In view of the above challenges in service delivery, the following recommendation action to enhance effective service delivery will be for us to have self-accounting system to fast-track utilization of devolved functions, HRMO to approve recruitment of 1,000 staff to fill the technical and professional gaps in the ministry for effective and efficient service delivery, government to invest heavily on irrigation systems or schemes to promote 4 cycles of rice production during one production season. This investment will trigger the attainment of 86% rice self-sufficiency target for 2023. That's in line with the government human capital development target. Government to support establishment of ranches to mitigate crop livestock farmers conflict and improve on animal productivity. The Ministry of Transport to provide vehicles to improve on monitoring and evaluation, extension services and technical backstopping, and market outlet service delivery to our farmers. Government will purchase additional machines to boost production and productivity by 2022. On that note, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. You have, again, in a very summarized way, talked about the major things in your ministry. You've talked about food security and environmental productivity, which definitely is one of the things that we know your ministry is established for. You talk about an interesting aspect about economic diversification, which is another means of sustaining food production. And interestingly, the involvement of private sector investing in agriculture at both national and district level. You also talked about evolving functions, which means that in your ministry you're well advanced in decentralization, where you have evolved functions with the local councils, and you have staff right down to the district village providing technical support. Then the interesting element you talked about was the issue about the PIUs. We know that in the past we had PIUs sitting in Freetown in very congested offices at Uni Building. But this initiative is so good that the PIUs are going to the areas of operation, like the agricultural value chain product depot. That's also very innovative and welcome move at supporting the decentralization process. Importantly, private sector investment, which are encouraging, and then of course mechanizing food production to attain food security and self-sufficiency. Concepts like youth farms, engaging young people in terms of encouraging them to be productive. Of course, in every situation, you must have challenges, and the challenges like you mentioned cut across, both from the side of government, from the side of private sector, that has to do with disbursement, insufficient equipment, logistics, and of course, weak capacity of the private sector to invest the colossal amount of money we want to see in the agriculture sector. But the good thing is we have recommendations how to increase the staff that work right down at that level, coming up with new cultivation methods, how we can invest in new cultivation methods, like we're talking about the combined harvesters, how we can have that across the country to make it easy for our farmers, and of course logistics for MNE so that we keep ourselves on our toes. But that tells us that in the agriculture sector, like in the education sector, the ministry has actually clearly laid down the institutional framework, the system of decentralizing, of ensuring that these activities are actually practicalized and operationalized in the district, in the localities, right down to the villages. I thank you very much for your presentation. I'll now hand you over to the lead moderator for the next session.
I want to join you to thank the two ministers and in the true spirit of partnership, who will now have our lead on the